This video is sponsored by Cake Wallet, the easiest open source wallet to store Bitcoin, Monero, and Litecoin securely on mobile and desktop devices. When buying, selling, and exchanging crypto or trading for gift cards, Cake Wallet ensures privacy and security, giving you the keys to your coins. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Randi Hipper Show. I'm your host, here today on a lovely Friday to talk about TA and life with none other than Dan. How are you, Dan, from Chart Guys?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Of course, I'm so happy to have you. I feel like this is really a full circle moment. I mentioned to you before the show that my dad has actually been watching you for years, and he really thinks very highly of you. And we've been in the space for so long. We've seen people come and go, and there's very few people that are consistent. So I really just wanted to give you your flowers for that and just being there. So shout out to Dan. Shout out to everybody in the chat too. Thank you guys for coming. Make sure to check out our sponsor, Cake Wallet. Smash a like, subscribe, and share the stream out with friends because we're going to deep dive into Dan's life and get to know him a little bit more. Dan, let's rewind. We're going to go back into the Dan time machine and go back to when you were around in high school. What did you think you were going to turn into when you were older? What were your interests at the time?
Oh, I had no idea. In high school, I like playing sports with my friends, poker. And then poker transitioned into trading. Definitely
Poker.
helped me. Yeah. So that's when, there was a rush when poker started being on TV and ESPN. And so, my friends and I were playing that, and that helped me with risk management and, putting money on the line and feeling my heart racing and emotional control and all of that. So, yeah, that was one of the earliest first steps towards this life that I have created at this point. But I had no idea, that trading would be a thing.
So poker, who taught you how to play poker and how young were you?
Oh, probably, 14, 15, 16. And yeah, just watching it on TV and playing with friends
I'm
and
so dead.
yeah, it was a lot of fun and just, something to do, you go to the movies with your friends when you're in high school, but on the weekend hanging out and playing some poker and, just chatting and having fun with the bros.
With the bros. So you guys were throwing down dollars for this, or it was just was it casual, like $5-10, or were you guys upping the ante here? How
It
degenerate was
progressed.
this?
Oh, it progressed. It would be $10 tournaments to start, but one of my biggest wins in high school, I remember walking home with $500 cash. I was like, man, could get used to this. It's a lot in high
Pre-inflation, that's a
school.
lot.
Yeah.
Wow. So high school, you're playing poker, and were you into any math at all? Were you a nerd, or was it just a free-flowing life you were living?
I was good at school, Western education. If you're good at memorizing stuff, you're good at school. And so I had a good memory. And so I did well on standardized tests and all that. I've always been good at math. And in second grade, we had a bean game where the teacher, she has 12 beans and she put her hands behind her back and she show you 4 and you have to tell her how many are in her other hand. And I won, I got to wear the crown and I was the best in the class at that. So I can do simple, math in my head well, and that's definitely helped with trading as well. But I wouldn't say that I loved math or anything like that, because once you get towards calculus and pre-calc and algebra, it's like I was not into that. But simple math is fun.
I remember geometry was my worst. I could not do it. It was just something that would not compute. But I loved pre-calc, and I was in college credits for all these classes like pre-calc and calc. It was fun for me because it was just solving issues and solving problems. But you could also do that in poker, which I think is you kind of looking around the table. Do you have a good poker face? Because I don't. I don't.
Yeah, I got good, but again, my face can be fine, but I can feel if I'm bluffing, my heart starts pounding,
You
and
get
it's
sweaty?
oh yeah, I haven't played in so long. I mean, because eventually you go to play with adults. I'd go and play with strangers,
Ooh,
at a racetrack, a horse racetrack or whatever, when I was 18 plus, and that's when it starts to get a little bit
real.
more serious. But yeah, it's a rush, and that whole rush, that emotional control. Again, it was a very good precursor. I made a video of how poker is like trading, and there are a lot of similarities that can be drawn.
Do you think, because you were kind of talking about and briefly mentioned there about Western education, do you think that you really benefited from school overall? Did you end up going to college?
Yeah, I did. I would say, there are aspects that were beneficial in the sense of being organized and staying on top of your tasks and things like that. But in terms of the amount of time I spent writing in cursive or, memorizing, long algebra equations. It's really hard for education to keep up with technology in the sense like they didn't know we were going to be holding everything we ever would want to know in our pocket. And so
True.
like I don't need to memorize any of this stuff in the real world because it's in my pocket. Like it's going to be hard, especially with AI. It's going to be so hard for education
Ridiculous.
to keep up with teaching the useful things because there are sixth graders right now that are learning things that are going to be irrelevant in a decade.
Oh, absolutely. Because my sister just graduated high school, and she even like, this was when Chat GPT just first came out, and she said nothing was done. Nobody was doing anything, and the teachers didn't even care. They were just like, all right, whatever, because they knew they couldn't kind of defeat AI. So I just don't know what school is going to turn into in the future. Do maybe like it will become irrelevant in one way or another. But then if you can't go to school because everything's online, then what are they going to make you do with your life to kind of sit there and prepare you for that 9 to 5? Because that's what I feel like school is for the most part. It's just making you sit
Definitely.
there.
That's an aspect of it. Yeah. Just do your thing and stay in line. And yeah, that's a big aspect. I would say, the ideal thing is these outdoor kind of outreach schools where you're learning to grow your own food, you're connecting with nature and also incorporating some aspects of being organized and, practicing getting good with your memory and things like that. But yeah, the whole education system needs an overhaul. And there's so many places that are going to be fighting AI rather than embracing it, and definitely need to be embracing it and using it as an asset and a tool.
Yeah, I do think people need to like be able to write for sure. My sister never even, I was like one of the last grades to even be taught how to write in cursive. So my sister doesn't even know how to write in cursive. And I think that's something that's really important too. And I feel like if we lose the writing, then we're going to like lose like a lot of like speech in a way, in the way we kind of talk to each other. I think texting too. Like, how do you feel from like when you were in high school to now, like the way you talk to people and texting, and like, do you think that's really impacted a lot too? Like with how you
Yeah,
communicate?
definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, people, myself included, I'd rather receive a text from someone than do the whole phone call thing. And
Yeah, it's so
yeah,
bad.
it's definitely something that is going to continue to shape society. And the rate of technology and how fast things change, it's wild and it's only accelerating. And that crypto and everything that we're going to talk about is an aspect of that.
No, it really is. And it's like sometimes I'm like, are we attributing to this kind of like weird like world where we're really not going to communicate with one another because we're in crypto, but at the same time it's direct communication with people, which is something we need instead of all these intermediaries that we're facing now. So it's such a huge battle, but I think like crypto and the revolution outweighs some of the cons here, but it's definitely something that's on my mind. So what were you up to in college? What was your mindset on the world? Were you thinking about all these big world problems, or were you just like living life and breathing air?
I got into learning about cannabis and learning how the government, subdued it in the 1930s, and just reading the history about that all made me really distrustful of the government. That was really
Yep.
the first seed being planted. Like, really, this is how all played out over the last 70 years. And from that point, I became a bit of an activist in terms of, after college, I was doing road tripping and just going to all the national parks and camping and all that.
Wow.
And during that time, the Occupy movement started. And so I was going to all the Occupy encampments around the country and cities and, participating in direct action and all that and learning about what the financial system was about and what the banks were doing to us. And, it crushed my soul a little bit because the media successfully turned everybody against us. And, I got my tent got egged and people, get a job and all that. And, my mindset at the end of it was, man, I was meeting so many brilliant people and like sleeping out on the streets with these people and, having intellectual conversations that were like, these are the people that should be running our country. And at the end of it, I became disheartened and was like, man, if people aren't going to jump on board and see what the financial system just did, what the banks just did, and the fact that we're paying to bail them out and nothing is changing, I'm hopeless. And so my mindset was honestly, all right, I'm no longer going to fight the system. I'm going to learn their game and I'm going to take my piece of the pie and do with it what I want with that capital. And so that was a direct translation into, getting interested in Bitcoin and crypto, because, it shared that same vein as far as being spurred on from that 2008 crisis.
Wow. So you were just traveling everywhere and just sleeping on the streets with these people. Like, and you mean literally on the streets. And like, what kind of people were you meeting? Why did you choose to live that lifestyle instead of trying to just go into some sort of financial adventure or cannabis adventure?
So I did start trading and playing around with the market in college, probably sophomore year. And so
That's
I had
early.
enough, yeah, I had enough success. I luck in the sense that, I stumbled, and it was cannabis stocks, and, California voted to legalize and it failed, but it was the first time that a state was like, hey, we're going to do our own thing. And so there were cannabis penny stocks that I was playing, and I was able to get enough money where after college, I didn't have to get a 9 to 5. And my mindset was always, I have $3,000 saved up from high school jobs. If I lose this, I'll get a 9 to 5 like everybody else. If this works out, maybe I don't have to. And so it worked out enough where it's like, all right, I'm good at least for, a year or two. I can travel around and do my own thing. And honestly, I watched the movie Into the Wild and was just like, all right, I'm going to Yellowstone. Like, I'm just going to do whatever I want and camp for a while and explore the country. And yeah, it just transitioned. I was staying on some farms and woofing, which is worldwide opportunities on organic farms, where you essentially just trade room and board
For
for
work.
some work. And so yeah,
Wow.
I was learning mushroom foraging and, learning all this stuff. You essentially you put yourself in someone else's shoes, and you join their lifestyle for a week or two or however long. And so I was just learning so much, and just, my mind was expanding on this whole experience, and it shaped me in a big way. And I'm very grateful that for that experience to open the door to a lot of the success that I've had later in life.
Wow. My mind is expanding with this conversation. So you really like went out and kind of went your own independent way where you were kind of floating on your own path, which I really respect. And putting yourselves in other people's shoes is really important too, to see like different lifestyles and how people could achieve some goals, whether that's like mushroom farming or whatever you were doing out there. It seems pretty cool, not for nothing, because these are things that, like, if you were in cannabis early, right, with that, whether that's stocks or actually growing it, now you have the opportunity to be a part of this $1 billion plus business. And I think probably if you're looking at legalization and what's going on with things like mushrooms, like you were kind of like very early on that, because I heard that there's going to be legalization in that aspect sometime, some way. Like, I don't know, do you feel like being in cannabis early and even things like mushrooms is something that's beneficial for like later in life investing and just being a part of a different movement, I guess?
Yeah, just watching a movement. That's exactly it. Watching the shift in the macro sentiment of a nation, essentially, to
Hmm.
go from legal nowhere to one state at a time, and just the momentum that gets behind that once the ball gets rolling. And you can definitely draw ties to the cryptocurrency Bitcoin movement in response to that. Just a community that just gets louder and louder and bigger, and begins to influence macro, the entire country's sentiment around certain issues. And I would say there was absolutely a major impact on me.
Yeah, because even Bitcoin now, like Bitcoin, oh, it's so bad, it's for criminals, but let's have an ETF and let's do all this. It's like they fight you and then they join you type thing. And being ahead on those movements and kind of just having your eyes open to how being early is cool, but also seeing that the pushback that's being against the cannabis industry, against crypto. Like, why is there such a pushback when there's a lot of benefit, not only for the people, but for the state itself? Like, where they legalize cannabis, states are making dough. And where there's Bitcoin, a lot of people, like in states like Texas, where there's a lot of Bitcoin mining, like they're making a lot of money. So, and even when people are selling their crypto, like they're going to make so much money. So I don't understand why they push things back until they can't anymore. Do you think we're not progressive enough as like a country, that this is like the general mindset of like these old people?
It's just the people that already have power and aren't willing to relinquish it. I mean, their roots go so deep. And you look back again to cannabis, you're looking back 80 years of control, and you can point to, synthetic oil creating, I mean, you could go back to, all the ships were using hemp rope. And now this invention comes along where, oh, we can make nylon and we can make these things out of synthetic oil. And so that was a huge shift in terms of manufacturing. And of course, the pharmaceutical industry and all that.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And yeah, so it's just the people that have the power and have had the power for decades being unwilling to shift and give that power up. And essentially, they get set in their ways. This is the way that it is. This is the way that it's been done. This is what has been working for my family to create generational wealth. And I'm not just going to, pivot on any, whatever next hot thing that comes along, when in reality that makes you miss the big hot thing that's going to change the future.
I I agree with you. And I think that this generational wheel needs to be broken, which is why I'm so passionate about Bitcoin and crypto, because this is a part of breaking that generational wheel. Because if you fix the money, you fix the world. Like, these people, they want all the money, they want all the power, they want everything, and they don't want to share with anyone, which is pretty wild when you think about it. I mean, if they take over the whole world and enslave us all, what's going to be left for them to have or take part in? Because, you know, the same people that are doing all of these things are sitting on the beach in the Hamptons just chilling out. So if they take us all out, they kill everyone's business and what we want to do, then what's going to be left for them? It's always that question that's in my head a little bit. But I want to talk about when you first got into Bitcoin and how did you discover crypto? What were your thoughts on it at first?
So when I was trading, and I heard about it a few times back in 2000, maybe 14 or so. And again, there were a couple penny stocks back then that, whether they were really doing anything with Bitcoin or not, I don't know, but they claimed to, and so that was enough to get on my radar and just understand that it was a thing. But I didn't take it seriously until 2017. And that's when it was like, just grabbing my attention. And honestly, at that point, had already been trading for 7 years, and we had a community where we have a bunch of traders, in a chat room and working together. And so other people brought it to our attention, like, hey, we should make a crypto room. Like, this is a thing. And, showing me the light, so to speak. And then, like, all right, I'll pay more attention to this, and started looking into it. And honestly, it was the charts that made me pay the most attention,
Yeah.
because the charts were in blue sky breakout. It's like, all right, I know what happens when you're at all-time highs. I know the potential reward there. So, all right, if we got no resistance, I'm interested. And then, from the charts, then I start to look at the fundamentals a little bit more in depth. I'm definitely more of a technical trader than a fundamental trader, but it was enough to, start to see what's this all about. And really, it was Ethereum. Like, okay, Ethereum's this new thing. What's Ethereum about? And just get in terms of getting my attention, and like, oh, well, this could be, the next big thing. And just the fact that both of them were hitting all-time highs. All right, I'll start trading it. I'll start paying attention to it. And that was, May 2017. And it very quickly, within 7 months, it changed my life completely in terms of, net worth appreciation and things like that. And so from that point forward, it definitely held a very special place to me, just in terms of, again, just changing people's lives. I love that crypto is breeding this generation of, financially successful people that are completely outside of the traditional financial route. I mean, think about the people that, what was needed to create significant wealth. You either need to invent something, you need to be a founder, or you need to be in traditional finance, and you have to go, get your MBA and whatever, and read balance sheets, and, invest in the market and all that. And this turns that upside down. And it's facilitating a transition of wealth among generations. And I just really liked that aspect where, these people that have nothing to do with the old system are still able to find this kind of wealth.
That was beautiful. That was freaking beautiful, Dan. And you said the chart caught your attention at first. What was that transition like from looking at the charts and being like, "Ooh, this is booming," to kind of educating yourself on it, especially because 2017 was wild for Bitcoin, running from basically nothing to 20 grand, and then coming back down pretty quickly by the time 2018 rolled around. So I would love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, reading some articles, and honestly, I was living with an entrepreneur at that point in time, and we were, doing pretty much just renting a house and making a farm and having a community house. And
Farm.
yeah, we had goats and pigs and ducks and chickens and gardens and all that. It was
Oh,
the
wow.
best time of my life, hands down. And he was in the music industry with his entrepreneurship, and so bands would come through town and they'd stay with us and put on shows, and we'd have house parties. And It was just a lot of fun.
You're the
But
coolest person ever.
thank you. And so it was honestly, I put in like $2,000 onto Coinbase. I was like, all right, I'll try this out and play around with it. And then I told my buddy, I can remember vividly in the kitchen, hey, I bought some Ethereum and some Bitcoin, and I'm interested in cryptocurrency. And literally the next day, he walks into the kitchen, he goes, I'm all in Ethereum, and that's just who he is, just in terms of balls to the wall, all in on ideas. And I was like, wow, all right, I guess I got to go aggressive too. What's there to lose? Same mindset. If I lose this money, then just the confidence that I can do the 9 to 5 thing. Like that's my safety net. And so it obviously worked out. I had a goal of 100% gain and, get a down payment for a house. And next thing I know, 7 months later, it's like 5,000% plus, and just not real. Like this isn't real anymore. This is
Insane.
mind blowing.
Jeez, man. Jeez. So you were just there at the perfect time. Like
Luck for sure. Luck
that
involved.
is
Yeah. Being open-minded, understanding charts and trading. And that's the thing. Like I made all my trading mistakes in 2010 to 2015. Like I learned all my lessons, and 2017 rolls around, and it honestly felt like my entire trading journey, the entire previous 7 years, were all just to prepare me for this one moment. And I just smashed it. I was waking up every 3 hours, and like just it dictated my life for 7 months. And towards the end of it, I was hoping the top would be set. It's like this is not sustainable. I hope there's a top so we could just chill out a bit and I can get some sleep and not have this be my entire life. But yeah, I stopped hanging around women. Like this was the thing. I know this
you went
opportunity.
full.
Oh yeah, I was all into this opportunity, knowing it wouldn't last. And we'd have a party inside, and I'd go say what's up for an hour, and then back out. I was living in a shed. Back out to the shed to get on the computer and keep trading.
You were living in a shed. Was it warm? Were you okay in there?
I was okay. It was a shed. It had a hole in the roof. I mean, I could talk about this forever. A snake fell through the hole in the roof in the shed one day, and I lost it for 2 weeks. I couldn't find
What?
it among my stuff, and I found it when it caught a mouse. And yeah, I was just living in there just because I had started live streaming and stuff, and so there was too much commotion in the house with the parties and all that, and I needed my sleep, and so I ran an internet wire out to the shed and lived in it, and took the lawnmower out and cleared it out. I put a mattress and a desk with my laptop. And yeah, I would drip and sweat in the summer with fans going. When it poured rain, it was too loud to live stream because of the tin roof. I have very fond memories of that chapter.
I'm surprised your computers didn't get wet if you had a hole in your roof.
I put a tarp over the hole, but the snake found its way under the tarp.
Well, these snakes, they're crafty little things. Like they're like the little mouses in New York. Those things get through like a 1/4 inch of like craziness. Oh
I
my
bet.
gosh! Like wow, you were living in a shed, my guy, and you were just trading, trading, trading. And it's really hard to like have that lifestyle you were living. You had those bands over all the time. You had a lot of commotion in the home, and you enjoyed that commotion in the home. But to kind of put your head down and work, what like did you have to like mentally prepare yourself for that? Was it hard? Did you feel FOMO with your friends? Did you feel like you were meant to do this? What were your
Oh, it was
thoughts?
definitely, like I said, it felt like the stars were aligning, and it was literally
That's so
7 years
beautiful.
of preparation for that moment. Yeah, I had no FOMO. I mean, what was going on was exciting enough, and I was interacting with, our trading community, and just having so much fun with everybody in there. And yeah, it was a good balance because we were talking earlier, needing that balance to get the screen time was insane.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be a successful trader, I don't sugarcoat it. You got to put in thousands of hours. And so I've done that, and the only way I've been able to do that is, I'd be able to put in 8 hours on the screen and then go outside and go milk a goat and go pick some kale and make my dinner. And that's the only thing, the balance of just completely different worlds of flashing numbers in cyberspace and getting in the soil and living that way.
Do you feel like I know it's a weird question, and tell me if I'm weird, but when you leave your shed, you're like, I'm done for the day, trader. See you later. And then you go outside to like milk your goat. Like, did you go barefoot? Were you feeling the dirt? And when you felt the
Oh
dirt,
yeah.
did you feel like people say like when you touch the dirt with your feet, it's like you feel like whole like reset in your body? I want to ask your thoughts because I don't have any like, non-toxic dirts in New York. So I wanted to ask that question to you.
Yeah, grounding, it's real for sure. You can buy bed sheets that you plug into your outlet that ground down to the earth. It's a thing for sure.
What?
Yeah, look up grounding. It's essentially, I mean, humans were made to live in the soil and among the earth and the plants. And when you're there's, the magnetic conductivity of electricity. When you're touching the soil, you're grounded in. And when you're wearing rubber shoes and walking around on concrete, you're not. And so, everything, the conductivity is staying in your body. When you hit the soil, it grounds down, studies of reduced inflammation, all this stuff. I'm barefoot all the time. And, I walk on things barefoot where people are like, what are you doing? It's like, I've been doing this for decades. I'm good to go.
Yeah, because there's this guy on YouTube. His name is Titus, and I don't know if you've ever seen his videos, but basically he went viral because he lives in like basically the middle of nowhere. He has like a bunch of acres of land, and he's always barefoot, and he's always has his plants, his horses, his dogs, and he lives like with the Amish and stuff, like around the Amish. So he like he just seems so happy, and like what he just never wears shoes unless it's too cold. So I feel like a lot of like people relate to that type of thing where it's like you really feel the ground. And it's so unfortunate that I can't relate to that in any way. And I feel like the cities, and when you really think about it, are kind of, I know I'm going off here, but really structured to take you away from that nature and disconnect you from like grounding. Like you said, there's reduced inflammation. There's so many health benefits that like now they want us to stay in a building with, like me, I live in an apartment building. I have no sunshine and I don't even have grass to walk in. And I have to, if I get sick, I have to go, I can't just like pick my own plant that I have in my backyard. I don't have a backyard. I have to go to the pharmacy and get gosh knows what from these people.
It's almost like it's intentional to make the perfect consumer relying on the government and big corporations to satisfy their needs.
It's absolutely horrible, man. And it's just, as I get older, I realize it so much more. And I think Bitcoin was really the cause of like me waking up to the world because I learned about Bitcoin. Then I'm like, okay, the financial system's very messed up. Just for the fact that I was 13, at the time when my dad first told me about it. And I was able to get like a debit card at at the bank, but I couldn't go and buy Bitcoin with that credit card, and I had to, or debit card, and I had to be 18 to get on an exchange. And I realized I'm not able to do what I want with my money, which means that they're counting out a bunch of people that have money that don't have the opportunity to make wealth in a country, especially where the 1% are the 1%, and there's basically everybody else with the middle class getting depleted. So as I'm like learning about Bitcoin, I'm learning about the world, and I really kind of had your moment where you had that, where you were looking at cannabis and how they blocked cannabis in the 1930s for essentially no reason. It's just very unfortunate that we've generationally gone on for this long. And, do you think we have hope to fix it? Or should we, like, kind of how you went about the stocks, just kind of jump in and try to play the game and make what you could out of it?
I'm a bit cynical towards it all.
Are you
I
bitter
think
because of it?
to a certain degree, it's just, we do the best we can. My mindset, I used to think big picture and I was shrunk down, local community, try and improve the lives of everybody around me, things like that. Because when it's big picture, it's hopeless. And, I don't see how things change in a drastic, meaningful way without a lot of hardship. And, what that looks like, take your pick. But in the meantime, take control of your life. And I know everybody watching is trying to do that with their financial situation, but even just if you're trying to get out of the city, just do it. It's scary. Humans are animals in the sense that we love routine. That's what farm
Yeah.
animals taught me. They want to be fed the same time every day. They love routine. If you take them out of their routine, they're uncomfortable. And humans are the same way, but you got to break that routine and choose the life that you want. You create your destiny and you have way more power than you think. And so it's just up to you to put yourself out there.
Dan, you're like so freaking amazing, man. Like you're so amazing. I can't even contain it. Like it's such a relevant conversation and I say that to people all the time. And like have people that call me a conspiracy theorist and all these types of names because I liked Bitcoin and I said that banks were going to fail. I told people the banks were going to fail in 2020 because people called me crazy for making my account. So what and so forth. So I was just like the banks will fail. And people laughed at me and I was just like, but you have to look at the picture and what money is and how things are working right now. And nobody wanted to think that way because they just couldn't picture a bank failing. But last year we had at least 5 bank failures. So now the things that all of a sudden were conspiracy or something that was so outlandish are now things that are so highly relevant. So I think it's a plus to think outside the box and maybe do something that scares you a little bit for the sake of discovering the truth. Because what I like to tell people is the facts are facts, and if you don't look for them, you'll never find them. They're not going to just like come on your lap and say like, "Hey, man, this is like the world is." Like you're not going to have that. Like I just don't understand why people don't take that initiative. And I don't know, like you said, like the farm animals, they like to stay in their routine. They don't like to pay attention to anything that doesn't really affect them. So I relate to you on such a spiritual level there. So I really enjoyed like what you're talking about with the nature and everything. And now we have a time where you were talking about, you had your head down in 2017. You were charting away, watching the Bitcoin bull run. You literally abstained from the female species because of it. Now we're kind of like, was the bear market when you got back into the dating pool? And now that we have the Bitcoin running plus 60K, do you think that you have to abstain from women once again?
No. Are you asking if I'm single? No. I'm at a point now where the trade-off, I made it to achieve my goals, and I got to the point where, the trade-off back then of putting in that much time was worth it to level up in a certain way. But then you get to a point where it's, okay, now time is more valuable than money. And so it's just the other end of the spectrum. And now, I had to train myself. I'm not waking up in the middle of the night to take that oversold bounce trade. And, I am going to close the computer and go out in the garden, regardless of if I could make $1,000, if I stayed on. It doesn't matter. And so I have to retrain my brain in a lot of ways from what it was back then to just a different approach. Very aggressive, much more conservative, still participating, but it's a night and day difference. I'm not the same style of trading at all.
Okay, it's good that you're going outside and you're touching grass. Are you still living in a shed? Did you like say like you're done with your house now? Like you're still gonna stay outside, or are we inside and comfy now?
No, I'm very blessed in terms of trading Bitcoin to US dollars to property. And a lot of people are, hold as much Bitcoin as you can and hold it forever. And that's great. But I really think that trading, things for life experiences is the way to go. And, I say to people, the house, the yard, I got a pond in my yard and a big garden. The experiences that I've had here over the last 4+ years, there's no amount of money that's worth that. And so, if you have the ability to change your life financially because of crypto, then do it, because it's the experiences, not the numbers, what matters.
Wow, my heart's so warm. So you have a pond?
I have a couple. I'm gonna have to show you my bear video. On my birthday a couple years ago, there was a mama bear and 4 cubs swimming in my pond, and the mom's
Oh,
rubbing her face, and the cubs are climbing up the trees. It was magic.
that is magical. The only thing I can relate to that is when I was little, I was in the backyard of a relative's house and there was a baby pool back there and there were 3 raccoons taking a bath in the pool. So that's the only thing I can relate
It's a
to. Not
mini
as pretty.
version.
It's a little bit of a ratchet version. I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little scared of those things. But I'm happy you have a pond. Is this like a deep pond? Can you swim in there or like what's the deal?
Yeah, you can swim. There's 2 ponds. One's probably 6 feet deep in the middle, and the other one's more shallow, maybe up to my chest or so. But yeah, honestly, thinking about big picture, when I was choosing this spot, I want fresh water nearby. I want to be able to grow my own food because, I was thinking, well, what if the financial system does collapse, or just want to be prepared for anything. And yeah, water nearby. I'm in Western North Carolina, and it has everything in terms of some elevation, protection from big storms, and plenty of plant life, plenty of rainfall. So yeah, I think it's paradise out here.
Oh, I would love to see your garden and what it looks like. Like, I can't imagine what you're growing out there. There must be like a lot of food and just like it must taste amazing. Like real, like
You
real food.
establish a connection. I mean, when you know your food from seed to sprout to plant to harvest to cooking, you establish a relationship with food and your body that is hard to describe. And again, just full control of the whole thing. I know what was put into it. And also, to get woo woo, I'm interacting with these plants every day. I'm touching them. You establish a connection. They're conscious in some way. They don't have the same senses as we do, but plants
They
and
are
animals
beings.
definitely, yeah, for sure.
Wow. We could talk all day about this woo woo because it's not really like they try to like and it's like even you said it like woo woo. Like it's not anything that's not real. It's so freaking real stuff. It's like actually scientifically proven. It's just that again, it's like that generational and like conditioning that we've had from like schooling to be like, oh, this is like, oh, not good. Like, oh, you should live in the city and pay everyone to do everything for you instead of going and planting stuff yourself. So, oh man, Dan, you're amazing. I want to know your thoughts on the charts too, because I know a lot of people in the charts in the chat are very excited about the chart array. So we could jump into that a little bit and what you think about Bitcoin, that it's kind of hovering. And I think 63K has been a little bit of a tiff for Bitcoin, is what I've been seeing. So I would love to gather your opinions on the charts.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, anytime you have a big move up like we saw, you have to anticipate periods of consolidation where, the market needs to digest what just happened because it happened, fast and hard. And right now this is sideways. There's multiple kinds of consolidation. You can go sideways, you can pull back into a bull flag, you can pull back significantly. And this right now is just sideways. So there's nothing wrong with this consolidation right now. It's essentially, it's supply and demand, obviously. And I just imagine the old scales, the justice scales, the balancing. And so right now what's happening is you go up really hard and fast. And right now this is supply and demand balancing out where, all right, there's some supply up 63, 64,000. There's some demand 60, 61,000. And so we're just sorting that out. And, this sideways range is going to break within the next 36 hours. And obviously if it breaks bull, we're going to keep talking about all-time highs because those are right behind it. But even if it breaks bear, I want to just remind everybody that because we just ran up so hard, we have so much space where we can pull back and keep things healthy. And just as an example, I look at this daily chart, you pull back to 57,000, no big deal whatsoever. That's healthy. And if you zoom out, you go to the weekly chart, we're going to consolidate on the weekly eventually again. And when we do, we can pull back to the lower 50s and still be fine, bigger picture. So just remind yourself, it doesn't go straight up forever. And, always establish your game plan as far as what time frames matter the most to you. Some people only care about the monthly charts because they're thinking big picture. There's nothing wrong with that. And, there's a lot of opportunities in the short-term time frames if you're an active trader. But this is, there are no red flags for the bulls right now whatsoever. The only question that I have is, are we going to hit all-time highs within the next couple of weeks? Or are we going to fail initially, which honestly wouldn't be a bad thing. This is the monthly chart. And I laid out recently, if I had my way and I could choose what would happen here, I would like to see a failure of the all-time
A
high.
cup and
And then just,
handle.
yeah. Because what you would do if that happens is, number one, you cool everything off. We're obviously extended. You cool off a lot of time frames. You just reset a little bit, but you give the bears a narrative. And the bears would jump on a double top narrative, grab some positions, and then just more fuel for follow through if you stop all those bears out and break that $60,000 range and then see that new all-time high. So again, I'd have no idea at this point if this is the most likely scenario. I would have to see a lot more transpire to gain confidence in that. But again, just if the monthly chart, if we were to top out right now and pull back for 2 months to the low 50,000s, still no red flags, bigger picture. So just keep that in mind when you're, I know everybody likes looking at the price every day, but just keep the big picture in mind as well, because the monthly chart has gone straight up 100% plus. Consolidation is inevitable eventually, and it's not something to be feared as long as the size of the retracement remains healthy.
And we do have the halving in April. So do you think that really the halving would have really any effect on price? Because people are like, oh no, it's going to not have any upside until a million years after the halving and all this type of stuff. And there are 4-year cycle maxis that are preaching until they all of a sudden change their opinion. So I want to know, like, do you think it's a possibility that that could happen? And do you think the halving with the supply shock will play any sort of role? Or is it kind of like Bitcoin will do its own thing anyway?
I think that, because of the ETF demand being a part of things, I think the cycle, and I'm not a cycle guy just in the sense that I don't let that dictate things. I'm more of just watching the trends on the monthly, the weekly, the daily chart, and making note of the psychological aspect, the social aspect of, fear and euphoria and things like that. But, I think that we could see things shorten up a little bit just in the sense that everybody's front running, the halving. And if everybody that wants access, because the timing with it is anybody that wants access to Bitcoin via an ETF is going to have their position pre-halving. We've got a couple weeks in, or month at this point, and we're going to have another month or so. And so the question is going to be post-halving, is there going to still be enough demand to keep this move going? And anytime I'm trained as a trader, when everybody's, what I say, on one side of the boat, everybody's looking in the same direction, it makes me a bit cautious. And, if everybody's looking for 200,000 on this move up, I'm looking for a lot less than that. And so it helps remind me to be cautious when everybody is looking in one direction, to just not get surprised. But again, no red flags at this point. And for me, it's just a day by day thing. I don't, again, as a trader, I don't attach to my bias. I try and stay as unbiased as possible and let price action dictate my decisions.
Price action dictate your decision. So how do, like, because also Ethereum, I don't know what you think of Ethereum right now. Ethereum has been popping off and it's getting pretty close to its all-time high as well. I think its movements have been pretty steady as well. And what I would like to know with like the Bitcoin movements too, kind of the same with ETH, is that like when you were coming in 2017, you were seeing few $1,000 candles at a time. Like it was kind of ridiculous. Versus when Bitcoin was running up to 64 the other day, it was running, kind of pulling back, collecting itself, and moving back up again. So I'm seeing different movements, but still rapid, but different.
Yeah, it's a different market, and that's a good observation. And the biggest difference is liquidity. You would have in 2017, I mean, you could go 10% up, 15% down in the span of a few hours. It was insane volatility, and that has changed because there are more market participants, and it's going to continue to change. The more Wall Street gets involved, they will continue to add liquidity as well. And just to go to my contrarian mindset one more time, with everybody that's so bullish because of the ETFs, yes, rightfully so. Clearly, the ETFs are driving price up. But I just want to remind everybody, not now, maybe not in a month, maybe not in a year. Just remember, Wall Street is going to short those ETFs, and outflows are going to put pressure to the downside on Bitcoin. Wall Street loves running things as hard as they can and then dumping things as hard as they can, and vice versa. That's where they make the most of their money. Really, what the professionals do is they try and get retail in as emotional a state as possible, because that's where they make their money. That's where they take retail's money, is when retail is making emotional decisions. And so, I have full expectations that whenever this cycle does top out, we will drop hard again. We've seen it every time with the 80% drawdowns, but you better believe that they will be shorting these ETFs. And just using myself as an example, I've never had an exchange in the US where I've been confident putting any significant amount of capital that will allow me to short. Coinbase, I can't short, and all the other exchanges, with FTX and Quadriga and all these things going under, I don't trust them. And so now, I trust Fidelity. I trust my stock account, and I have so much more capital that I have access to when the time comes, play the other direction. And you got to think the hedge funds and, big money is going to do that same thing. So not being a party pooper, but I'm just preparing for everybody that at some point, these ETFs, which are doing great things for the bulls, they're going to do great things for the bears as well.
Oh, 100%. That's so classic. Like you can even watch the Coinbase stock, right? When they first launched the IPO, ran pumped it, and then got everyone excited and dumped it right on everybody's face. So yeah, like that was classic example. And it happens so much. And then when things don't go their way, like when AMC and GameStop were pumping from Wall Street bets, they just halt the stocks and they delete all the articles about how it was the worst day in history for hedge funds. All that's cool.
Yeah, it's the thing is you have to go into the game knowing it's manipulated, and that's where my Occupy Wall Street background helped me a lot. And so again, it's I'm not trying to fight the system. I'm trying to just follow the money and get my piece of the pie. And yeah, as you mentioned, coin dumping 90%, and now it's up 600%. Big money wants the massive moves in both directions because that's where big money makes their big money.
Exactly. Do you think maybe there could be like kind of how you wanted Bitcoin to play out with a cup and handle? Do you think you could see the same here?
On coin,
Yeah, like do you picture like that being a good setup? Like if it were to like kind of run up to around that 368, dip back down and have a nice run?
it's possible. I mean, that's too forward looking for me because, the probabilities, just so much is needed for that to shape up. We need to run another 50%, then we need to pull back a bit. The thing with cup and handles is they're the most commonly overprescribed pattern that I see on social media, just because everybody wants their name to be a cup and handle because that means breakout. But to that being said, this past year, I'm seeing the most cup and handles that I've seen maybe in my entire trading career, both in crypto and in stock. So they're valid patterns to pay attention to, but really I don't pay attention to cup and handles much until the handle starts forming, because otherwise, I'm going to be paying attention to
Overhyped.
patterns. Yeah, they just don't develop, far more often than they do develop. So if we were to run up and then start pulling back, now I'm paying attention for the cup and handle. So it's almost essentially just like, show me that it's mostly formed, and then that handle is when I start paying attention, because that's when the actionable, signal is in terms of the breakout. You obviously want to get in for the breakout, and that handle as it's developing is when you want to be paying extra attention.
Are you a Bitcoin dominance guy?
Oh, I look at it for sure. One thing I'm looking at often is the altcoins compared to BTC,
I was going
which
to ask
is
you about that next. Dan, you're reading my mind. Oh, I
yeah,
can't with you.
this was a game changer for me in terms of, I wasn't doing this in 2017, 2018, but as, I started to progress with trade in the cryptocurrency space, it became a big factor. And honestly, I took a lot of stuff that I learned trading crypto and brought it to stocks. And so like I'll be comparing, if I've got the tech sector ETF, I'll take the individual name and I'll compare it to the ETF, and I'll look for relative strength and relative weakness, and that will help inform my trading decisions. I obviously want to be long the relatively stronger names and short the relatively weaker names. And so that's just an overlap of how crypto has helped my traditional stock market trading. But back to ETH, this weekly chart for ETH BTC is going to dictate a lot here. This is just your standard, I call it an equilibrium, where it's just higher lows and lower highs, just a tightening range. And we're going to look for this to break sometime, probably within the next 3 weeks. And essentially, if you want to keep it simple, you can say that if ETH BTC is not breaking this line, then Bitcoin's the place to be. If we get over this resistance level, then that means shift your focus from Bitcoin towards ETH a bit more, because it's making progress in terms of gaining some relative strength back. So this is an important chart to be paying attention to in terms of, the next couple of months in the crypto space.
Do you think about the ETH ETF a lot? And do you think that maybe institutions or bulls are starting to accumulate now in anticipation for that? Because I think the approval might be in May. And everyone, please smash the likes in the chat, by the way.
Yeah, the narratives are always important to pay attention to. I mean, it's so beneficial and helpful in trading. And, we talked about early on, we talked about the rate of technology changing with education. Well, the rate of technology is constantly changing trading, where, people back in the pits yelling at each other, if you don't update the computers and charts, you're a dinosaur and you're now extinct. And so, Twitter and social media changed the game for trading. When I first started trading, social media was not an aspect of my trading. And now it's a very big aspect, because you get a look into the insight of the psychology of the herd. And so, narratives like that are very much worth paying attention to. Just like, semiconductors, NVDA, these stocks are seeing monster moves. That then trickles into the crypto space, and AI crypto coins are benefiting from that narrative. And so, ETH strength recently Absolutely. Bitcoin, once everybody sees, wow, look what the Bitcoin ETF is doing for the Bitcoin price. I want some ETH in case we get yeah, they're front running it. Absolutely. They're front running the possibility that we get the ETF and the impact that could have on the price of ETH. And so what does that mean? That means that we should not expect the same kind of significant follow through, because this one would be more front run than the Bitcoin one, in my opinion.
I think so too, because I think there were a lot of doubts with the Bitcoin ETF, and I think now that, because even the CEO of Grayscale said it himself in an interview from like August or something, where he said if once they have the Bitcoin ETF approved, it's going to kind of greenlight them and give them the kind of zest to go and launch all their other trusts as ETFs, and that's Ethereum, Litecoin, Zcash, and a bunch of other ones that include privacy, which is pretty interesting as well. And I don't think they would have trust for all of these coins or tokens if they didn't think there would be a regulatory issue with them. So I'm definitely with you. I think there's a lot of anticipation for the ETH ETF. So I wonder if maybe, and I think we have to kind of see at that point around May, if maybe this is something that could be priced in, where the Bitcoin ETF wasn't priced in. I think it took a dip and then it was like a delayed effect.
Yeah, and I won't say fully priced in, because again, you still have the traditional, the boomers that will need to put their capital into the ETF. But trading's all probabilities. And so if the probability that an ETF is going to happen is 40%, then it's not priced in. But if the probability is 80%, then a lot of it is priced in. And so just think of things, and the probability is determined by all the market participants. So it's like an aggregate probabilities. You got people that think it's 20, you got people that think it's 100, it's somewhere in the middle. And so I don't think, it would be fully priced in, but I think it would be more priced in than the Bitcoin one was.
Yep. And someone in the chat with the super chat, thank you, Justin. He said, not if your best friend Gary can stop it. So that's really funny, too, because we have that whole battle with Gary Gensler. But I just don't see like Gary pushing this one back, because, the only reason he approved the Bitcoin ETF is because the judge ruled it that he kind of had to. So I feel like the judges are making rules for this country instead of the regulators. I think that's pretty interesting as well. And people are thinking, thank you, Gary, for approving the ETF. He didn't do this for you. Do you think there are, honestly, but do you have any other charts that you're watching that are intriguing in terms of like what's going on technically? It doesn't have to be crypto.
As far as crypto, I like anything, for reasons we already talked about, anything that's at or near all-time highs. The reward potential is greater. Price discovery is very powerful. You don't have overhead resistance levels. You don't have bag holders from 2 years ago that are going to sell when they're break even. And so, again, the AI narrative is hot right now, but you got coins like RNDR that's been on a blue sky breakout run, and you've got INJ, which is testing all-time highs, and Ocean. There's a bunch of these names. Their liquidity on some of them is not great. INJ, I've had a little difficulty trading just because these wicks. If you like placing stop losses and protecting your risk, because they are thinly traded, it's a lot easier to have a wick stop you out, especially if you're on some of the smaller exchanges. But that would be my advice. Focus on things near all-time highs, because the reward potential is generally greater than things that need 150% move to get back to their all-time high.
That's a pretty zesty statement. I'm not going to lie to you, because a lot of people right now would say the other side, and be like, oh, Bitcoin's near all-time high. There's no way I'm buying it now because I missed 20K like a pleb. But, it's just that kind of thing that's going on. So I think it's definitely your perspective and how you look at it. But I really like the way like you're kind of just saying, hey, this is how I feel. The risk I feel at this level is pretty okay to jump in if you think it's near all-time high. And, who knows, because once you're at all-time high, that's price discovery, especially with something like Bitcoin, where I think if Bitcoin just starts mooning, goes past all-time highs, then obviously these alts are going to follow.
Yeah, and especially, if you want to limit risk, something like INJ that's up here, I mean, clearly this base is a must-hold level. And so, it's always nice when you have the clear level where you can make a simple statement. If this level is holding, I'm bullish. And if this level breaks, then I stop out, or I was wrong. And that's the key about trading is, not being egotistical, because I'm wrong multiple times a week. I'm wrong all the time as a trader because I'm making thousands of trades. And so you have to, the sooner you realize you're wrong and bail, the better. And so you have to give yourself an invalidation point. You can't just say, I think this is going to go up. And that's your game plan. Because what invalidates that? How much of a pullback? Pulling back 5%, 10%? At what point are you wrong? You need to say, if this happens, I'm wrong. My thesis is wrong, and I exit. And that's that's the core of being a trader. It's being good at being wrong.
Actually, yes. And I want to ask you, like, what do you think, like, emotionally, is like, how do you really handle trading and not getting ahead of yourself in terms of like, okay, I maybe around now where the other day Bitcoin was soaring and hit 64, and you don't want to get lost in the sauce where maybe you could potentially have a high leverage trade and then you thought Bitcoin was going to blow past 64, maybe go to all time highs, but then you hit 64 and then dip pretty much right away.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be using leverage unless you have a lot of experience. I've never used leverage in the cryptocurrency space and still was able to make thousands of percent. It's possible. And I was never at risk of blowing up my account at any point in time. I was at risk of losing 30% of my account when I was being really aggressive, but never a blow up risk. And so I would say, you need to be trading for 3 years to be able to be responsible with leverage, because what you get is, people in year one jumping in, seeing stars in their eyes, wanting to hit it big and not knowing what they're doing, and they blow up their account. And, I shudder to think if I blew up an account in my first 3 years, I might not be a trader right now. Capital preservation is goal number one. And, being aggressive is one thing, risk partial. You want to risk 10% of your account in a leverage trade? Absolutely. But take that 10% somewhere else so your whole account is not at risk of blowing up.
So you didn't do any leverage trading. You might have been one of the only traders I have talked to that has said that. And were you always scared of just like that risk of like blowing up your account? Because like, what if it's something like 2x lev? Like, because I see people that, it's just so funny. Like people think like they come out of nowhere and they're like, oh, I'm a trader now. And I'm going to like post my 10x leverage or my 100x leverage post and how great I'm doing. And I get very worried about those types of things. And even me, I'm scared to actually put like, money and trade actively because I feel like once you put money on it, it's almost a jinx. But do you feel that way with leverage?
I think, in 2017, you didn't need leverage. I was able to outpace Bitcoin from, 1,000 or 500 to 19,000 just by, trading it and selling Euphoria and then rebuying the 20% pullback and then rotating into Litecoin and rotating into ETH. So, it was a different environment. I will say that Bitcoin was going 1,000% plus. It's not going to do that anymore, just through, the laws of diminishing returns, the market cap being so much bigger, there being so much liquidity. That's, one thing about having so much more liquidity, you're not going to dump as hard, but you're also not going to go up as fast. I think the days of seeing BTC go up thousands of percent in a year are over. I love to be proved. I love when I'm wrong and my net worth is higher because of it. So I would love to be wrong, but I just don't think that's the case. So again, leverage, it can be a useful tool. I don't want to knock leverage because I know plenty of professional trading friends that use leverage all the time. You just have to put in the work to have the education before getting into the leverage, because it's a game that is designed to get you when your emotions are your highest, and you have to learn emotional control. And one of the benefits, I don't want to spend 1,000 hours learning how to trade. I promise if you learn how to trade, it will improve your life in ways that you did not imagine. I don't get angry. I don't get angry anymore. Like traffic, whatever. I can remember like 2 times I've been angry in the last 5 years. And it's just, you're more patient. I have people that I've taught that say, their partners have commented about how it's so much nicer now that they're, learning emotional control and being a trader. And so, that's one positive benefit where it's not just about trying to make money. Trading is a lifestyle. It encompasses your entire life, and it can create some very positive changes.
Trading is a lifestyle. I like that. And emotional control is huge. And there's even someone I know in the chat, Gerard, who's a trader as well. And he said he never traded with leverage because crypto is already volatile to be doing that, which is a pretty good point. But it depends on what you're looking at. Because again, like there was like some medical stock I saw the other day that has been in the market for a while. So liquidity is there, but shoots up over 100%. And gosh forbid that was something in crypto. The mainstream would be like, oh my gosh, Bitcoin's broken because it's going up too far and too fast. And like it's just such a double standard, I think, with a lot of stuff. But still, there's volatility everywhere, but more so, I guess, in crypto because there's just 20,000 options to pick from. But did I hear Litecoin? Did I hear Litecoin?
Oh yeah, like get this, Litecoin from 2007 to
Gosh, you're gonna
2018,
kill me.
I had more trading gains on Litecoin than Bitcoin and Ethereum. The volatility was beautiful. I don't, no fundamentals, forget fundamentals, but just the trading, it was beautiful. It was, I don't even know what it did. I gotta look on the chart here in terms of the percentage move, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. Let's see, in May, when I first started, May 2017, it was trading 15 to 30s. It went up to 420. So yeah, it's a solid 10x, lots of opportunity.
Gosh darn. Everyone in the chat, put your Litecoin emojis and smash the likes because that was a beautiful thing for me to hear. I love Litecoin. Litecoin's the right coin, dude. And I'm going to the Litecoin Summit too. So you guys in the chat, in the description, make sure you guys check out that link for Litecoin Summit. Tickets are only $84, guys. July 24th to the 25th in Nashville, Tennessee. You should pop out, Dan. It'll be a time. Yeehaw, in Tennessee.
Wait, say the dates again?
July 24th to the 25th in Nashville.
I might do it. That's close enough.
Tickets are only $84, Dan. I mean, sheesh, like, come hang out. It'll be so fun. Like, there's going to be so many Litecoin OGs there. It's going to be such a great time. There's, like, a lot of high-status people. If you guys look at the website and who the speakers are, people from Coinbase, BitPay, and gosh knows where. They're beautiful people, though. And I'm just so excited for that. So, wow, you're a Litecoin OG, too. That's like, wow, we have a lot of synergies, Dan. Gosh darn. I want to know because I've kept you here for a while, and I want to know what is something in your heart and it could be about sleeping in the woods. It could be about farming mushrooms. It could be about chartery. It doesn't matter. Share something with the audience, something that comes from your heart, and where can we find you?
Ooh, something that comes from the heart. I mean, yeah, just the themes that we've been talking about in terms of getting outside and connecting with nature, because society, as you mentioned, is doing everything it can to take us away from that. And you go back 100 years and our grandparents or great grandparents, it was a very different lifestyle. And I think there's synergies to be had where, yeah, technology is great and it can improve our lives, but we got to go back to a lot of those roots as well. And even if you don't have the time to grow your own food, connect with a farm near you and establish those kinds of relationships. Community, local community, uplift those around you and be a positive force in just do good things. That's our tagline. Do good things every single day. Just how can I do good things?
Yes, I love that. Dogecoin. I have my little sticker right here. Oh, and now it's on the floor. Do only good every day. I love it so much because it's really like what we do in crypto. And it's just like spreading that love. And I always talk about unity and how out of every movement we've ever seen, out of any other revolution in terms of like innovation, the industrial revolution, whatever it is, this is the most inclusive. Anyone, anywhere in the world, doesn't matter who you are, what race you are, your socioeconomic status, you're able to get into crypto and own something and have something where you could transfer 24/7 cross-border where there is no censorship. So I'm with you. Do only good every day. Be happy. Be positive. Thank you, Dan, for joining me. Like, I absolutely love you, dude. Like, we gotta stay in touch because we have so many synergies. And thank you guys in the chat for having our time spent with you because you guys are great freaking people and you come here and hang out with us at 2 p.m. and 9:45 a.m. Monday through Friday. So I appreciate you guys so much. Have an amazing day. Have a happy Friday, a great weekend. Smash the like, subscribe, share this so more people can know about Dan and his amazingness. Have an amazing day. I'll see you guys later. And as always, stay zesty. Peace.